You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Thank you so much for being with us. We are just thrilled to have you. I'm hoping that you are coming back, and I'm welcoming you for a second or third time today. I am Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and you are watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. I have a story to tell, except it's not my story. I'm your host, executive producer, director, and broadcast engineer. And this show is so meaningful because people come and share authentically and are so transparent about something that's going on in their life. And they're here because they want to help other people. They want to get the message out about something. They want to make this world a better place to live. And we have just that person with us today. His name is Captain John.hoyte. Let's bring him on to the program. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi, Jacalyn. Very well, thank you. Great to chat. Looking forward to it.
It's a pleasure. Yes, I'm so excited to have you here because your background is so unique and so interesting. And I want to share with our audience that you are a career pilot in the UK. You've actually taught flying. You have done what's it called? Aerial crop spraying. You've flown all kinds of jets. And in the midst of all of this, you came down with a sickness. And that's sort of thwarted what it was you were doing. So we've got a number of things to discuss. Let's talk about first how you got involved with flying.
Well, most pilots will say it's from a very young age. I think I was 4 years old when I kind of got hooked. So that's like 1959. I'm 65. So, you know, and once you get hooked, it's like a drug. You can't sort of get away from it. So that's to answer your question. And then after that, you just get more and more into it. And here I am still flying at 65.
Captain, is there ever any, was there ever any sense of fear in terms of, no, not at all. So in other words, you're responsible for it. It could be just you, but then when you're flying for airlines, you're responsible for other people. There's never any fear that came into your mind.
No, you don't think about it. You just, you know, it's your neck actually. You know, as long as you save your neck, everybody else in the back is okay. So you just, you know, it's quite a selfish thing, isn't it? If you save your neck, you're okay, and everybody else is okay. But you don't fear. I mean, you just fear not doing your job or doing something improperly maybe, but or letting people down. That's the only fear I've got. No fear at all.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm very interested for the next part of our conversation to talk about all the different types of flying that you've done, because you've done flying for all different purposes. So what can you share with us about that?
Okay, well, I think there's the difficult way and the hard and the easy way of getting into flying. The easy way is going to the military or something like that, where I wasn't intelligent enough, so I had to do it the difficult way. And so I taught people to fly for the first probably 2 or 3 years. And you've only just learnt yourself, but suddenly you're passing on information. And once you work it out, it's not that difficult. So you're constantly learning. So that's what I did for the first 3 years. And then you get bored with that because you're, you know, talking to people who are just flying and, you know, you want to fly. So for the next 7 years, I did aerial crop spraying, crop dusting. And I think you call it crop dusting in the States, but it's really good fun. It's low-level flying and, you know, you're dealing with dangerous chemicals and serious situations, but, you know, you're trained to deal with it. So that's fine. And then I was really lucky. I went to Kenya in 1982 in Africa and flew at 10,000 feet, you know, spraying barley and so on. So that was huge fun, but bloody dangerous. You know, but you get away with it and you're learning all the time. And then I went out to Australia and I was lucky enough to pioneer aerial firefighting in South Australia, Adelaide, and did about 4 seasons there, or 3 or 4, I can't remember. And, you know, again, it was just huge fun. And But then you get married and you kind of think, hang on, I want a sensible job. So that's where I changed in, was it 1987? I made the decision, to get a sensible job, really. And then I sort of flew DC3 Dakotas, the old C-47 transport aircraft, the bomber types with, propellers still. And now this is all below 10,000 feet, okay? All the flying I've done until 1989 is in kind of oldish aircraft, but below 10,000 feet, all right? And then in 1989, I made the decision to fly jets. I thought, well, that's the job to take you through to a long and happy retirement, really. So I changed over, and the aircraft I chose to fly was the British Aerospace 146, which is a 4-engined small jet, really. It carries about 110 passengers. So it's a bit like a 737 or Airbus 320, that sort of size, And that's what I choose to fly. And it was for a company called TNT, who are like UPS or FedEx in the UK. And that's when it started to go wrong. That's when I started to have health problems, because I'm a really fit guy. I'm like a Scottish, Dutch, genes. I'm kind of bionic, sort of, I don't know, very fit man. So suddenly in 1990, I had this serious ill health. And, we were night flying actually at the time, which meant that you start work at 8 in the evening and then you go through till 6 in the morning. So that's kind of quite a challenging time, period to be flying. And, but, you deal with it, and it was good fun. It was seriously good fun. So you're flying around the whole of Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to set the stage for our audience. So you have all of these years of flying different types of jets, and in the meantime, you were flying low level, spraying chemicals, and there are fumes, obviously. So not only do you have exposure to the chemicals that you're inhaling in some way, the planes have this stream of fumes that are coming out of it. So, okay, fast forward. Now it's this specific day. Tell us what happened next.
But the chemical spraying was so safe because you got this fresh air coming in the aircraft from the front. So actually you're in this positive pressure of fresh air all the time, And so it's, and you know what you're dealing with. You're poison, you're aware of it. So you don't touch it. You keep well clear. So actually those years were the safe years, I can't stress that enough. And everybody knows about it. And it's all written down in the books and everything. And I've written a book about it. So you can get that free online today. So I changed that for jet flying in 1989, completely unaware of the fact there are seriously damaging chemicals in the engines. And the next thing to tell you is that the air in the jet aircraft gets into the jet from the engines, okay? It goes in the front of the engine halfway down, and then it's piped into the engine, and it's called bleed air, and it's bled off the engine. And they first came up with this idea in about 1955, something like that, the year I was born. And then by 1962, it was common on all aircraft. So most aircraft flying around today have bleed air. But this bleed air is not filtered. It just goes straight into the cabin. And that's the problem. So it takes these chemicals, which are the same as the ones I use in crop spraying, which are in the jet engine, and they go straight into the cabin and the cockpit. And that's what affects people. And that's the sad part, because I found out the hard way. I just got sick in 1990, and not knowing why, I just kept going, because being a bloke, you don't tell anybody, you just kind of keep going, And that was my fault, really. But it was night flying too, so you just follow the roster. You're always worried about your job, and and I did it till 1998. And then by then I was kind of really out of it. I was really ill, and, my memory had gone, speech and all sorts of things. It was really difficult. But again, I didn't know why. So does that make sense?
So Captain, yes, that's what I was going to ask you. What were the symptoms that you had initially that it sounds like as time went on, the symptoms became worse and worse? But initially, when you think back, what were some of the first symptoms?
Okay, heat control. You feel very hot. I just was really hot. And my eyes went to pinprick pupils, so little tiny black dots, so I knew something was wrong. And but there was numerous symptoms. I mean, I think they're all written in the book, neurological type things. And then your speech goes and your memory. And, it's like a brain fog, really. but you can get away with it because you're flying with another pilot. You've got a first officer or a captain, and you fly together and you follow the checklist. So really, flying's very easy once you get hang of it. I promise you. It's just flying by numbers, really. Honestly, anybody can do it. Once you've cracked it, about 2 or 3 years, and you're good for life. Really, it doesn't change. So there you are. So yeah.
Captain, did you share the fact that you weren't feeling well with anybody you were flying with? Did you let anyone know? No, so you keep it all inside.
No, you don't tell your wife, you don't tell your doctor, you don't tell your friends, because you don't know. You're dealing with it, and you put it down to night flying, because I was, as I said, just flying through the night. So we're quite logical people. We think, okay, well, it's tiring, and but it's not jet lag. It's not that thing where you're crossing time barriers, but it's clearly associated with the job you're doing. And I think anybody would agree, if you do 9 years of night flying, you're going to get pretty tired, really. So I volunteered to go. Well, I changed to day flying in 1998. That's right. I thought, well, this is killing me, this night flying. I've got to go day flying. So you look around, but by then my memory had gone completely. So I couldn't have flown a new aircraft, for example, like a 757, which is what I wanted to do. So I thought, well, just got to stay on the same airplane, really, because I can't learn a new airplane by then. I've lost my memory, and I just wouldn't be able to do it. So that's when I started to look for a day flying job, and I found it. And I found a lovely airline at Birmingham, Flybe, and I changed to them. And suddenly you think, wow, I've got pretty girls in the back. This is fantastic, and daytime and sun and everything. And you kind of think, wow. But you've still got this terrible problem, and you can't speak and you can't think, but you still don't know why. That will come later, in 2005, 6, that's when I worked it out.
So I want to stop there for a moment, because I think that this is really pivotal, what you're talking about. So you've been flying all these years. You suddenly don't feel well. You've been exposed to these toxic fumes. You don't tell anybody you don't feel well. You still do your job. You still show up. You're a strong man. You're strong physically, mentally, emotionally. But yet inside, things are not going well. And
sure,
you just,
absolutely.
So tell us what happened next.
Well, I continue, but you don't know. It's this great unknown, isn't it? So you carry on,
yes,
because nobody will tell you. But they already know by now. It's already been worked out by clever people, which I'll tell you about later. But so 1998, I changed to day flying. So suddenly I'm flying for a lovely little airline in the UK, and flying all around Europe. Still lovely people. Still can't speak. I could manage about 8 words strung together. I used to spill them out, and then they'd sort of, I'd say, you do the talking, I'll just listen, So it's quite strange thinking back, actually. And so my speech went, and my thinking, and slowed down, but people just thought, oh, well, he's quiet today, but this is normal, really. So I lived with that from 1990, really, to 2005. But in 2004-5, it's like a thing filling up, You get to the point where you just you can't continue any longer, and that happened in 2005. And I started walking off aircraft before takeoff. I kind of thought, no, I'm going to kill people today if I fly, so I'm out of here. So I just walked off and drove home, and got into trouble, because you got to sort of do what you got to do. And then by mid 2005, actually it was 30th of June 05, that was the last flight. And luckily, I didn't know it was my last flight. So, and from there on, I never flew jets again. That was the last time. So I had 6 months at the end of 05, really bad way. And then I found out in 2006, exactly what was causing the trouble, which they've known about for, 70 years probably. It's a well-known thing in the airline industry, or a badly known thing in the airline industry, because nobody knows about it.
So I'm on the edge of my seat to find out what it is.
All right. Well, you can see I run the Aerotoxic Association. And so in 2006, I was tested. There were 27 union pilots, BALPA pilots, and we were all tested for toxic cabin air by University College London. And they did it very carefully. And, I had just been grounded, so everybody was very keen to help, And by May the 22nd, I'd made a statement saying, look, I've been poisoned, and everybody else has been the same. It was kind of not rocket science. It was 100% hit rate. So that's when I kind of worked it out. And then you try and leave a paper trail of what's happened. So I wrote a statement, and then I remember this friend, Tristan Lorraine, who's a British Airways captain. He phoned me in June 2006, and he said, "Hey, John, you've got aerotoxic syndrome." And I said, "What the heck's that?" He said, "Well, look it up, you know." And then you kind of consult the published material, and it's all there. You know, it's like a paper chain. It goes back to 1962. 1999 is when they worked it out. American doctor, French forensic scientist, Australian toxicologist, and they worked it out in 1999. And they published. And if you go to the website, it's all there.
So, question I have, and by the way, thank you for being so transparent and sharing your story. What I'm wondering is, you had said just a little bit earlier that everyone already knew that this problem existed with the poisoning of the cabin air, but no one talked about it.
Well, they still don't, Jacalyn. Today, you know, you still find crews not talking about it because it's a jeopardy for their jobs. And, you know, I understand that. And I didn't understand it when I was flying. I mean, people were talking about it, but you thought, well, let's just keep going, you know, because I can't do anything about it. I'm in this job, you know, so I can understand both sides. I'm Libran. I can see how it gets away with it, really. But it's a sad situation because lots of people are affected, and passengers too. Why wouldn't they be? You know, it's a bad news thing for the passengers too. No question at all. Why wouldn't it be?
Absolutely. So my mind is automatically thinking, okay, I get it. People who work in the airline industry, people who are flying, people who are traveling, air travel is huge, right? If you want to go from point A to point B. But by brushing it under the carpet, so to speak, there's no way to address it. There's no way to come up with a solution. So you decided to take action. Tell us what you did.
Okay, so in 2006, I worked it out without a shadow of a doubt, made a statement, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to do something. So that banner behind me, I took it to London, stood outside the Houses of Parliament, and we started the Aerotoxic Association to support other people. So that's what I've been doing ever since, really. And and that was like 14 years ago today. And it's kind of cleaned me out, really, because, you know, there's no money in helping people who take all the time. So it's been a bit of a difficult time, I suppose. But, you know, we're going to turn it around. I know we are, because we're so close to getting public awareness now. It's, you know, it's kind of blindingly obvious what's going on. And I'm not the only one. There are many, many other organizations all around the world working on this. And probably the best one is Global Cabin Air Quality Executive, GCAQE. If you go to their website, there's the most amazing amount of information about it. And I was at the first meeting in 2006, so I've kind of been there all through. But, you know, I started my own thing, and I've struggled with it, I have to admit. But I'm okay now. I've got my health back. So do you know what? What's the problem, you know?
Oh, Captain John, I'm so glad you got your health back. Question that I'm wondering, and people out there watching us, listening, may be wondering, you just shared something really important that it's almost cleaned you out. Your passion for bringing this to light, for trying to have a solution. Why do you keep going?
I think all pilots are persistent. You know, if you go up to the pilot in the cockpit and say, "Excuse me, are you going to crash and not get us to the destination, or are you going to carry on?" Every single pilot will say, "No, don't worry, we'll get you to your destination." You know, we're very persistent people. We don't give up. You know, so and that's what I'm doing. And you know, I know it's a matter of time. So this thing is just about to be recognised around the world. You know, so once it's recognised, well, you know, you can work it out for yourself what's going to happen. But I don't know. It's just overdue. It should have been done 3 years ago, probably. You know, they've left it too late, really. You know, it's now all the aircraft are grounded, and everybody's saying, "Well, nobody's flying anyway." And you kind of think, okay, well, they're still sick from this thing. You know, it's a percentage thing. It's like COVID-19. About 30% of people can't detoxify the organophosphates in the jet engine oil, and they put organophosphates in to make the engines last longer. So I think it's about 3 to 5% in the jet engine oil, and a small part of that gets into the cabin, and that's what affects people. And it's 30% of people, so 70% of people won't be affected. It's just the 30%, and then a smaller percentage, maybe 5%, they're really badly affected. And I think I was in that subgroup. And then a certain percentage die. You know, there's a lot of people who just can't deal with it. And there's many people who've died because of this. Richard Westgate, people like that. There's a lot of people who've died because of this thing.
Captain, this is really fascinating. And obviously anybody who's ever flown on an airplane could be affected by this. So I've got a lot more to ask you. We need to take a break. I do want to announce that you are a published author and your latest book is launching today. And when we come back, you're going to read a testimonial after we have some more dialogue. How does that sound?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We're going to take a break and hear from some of our sponsors. Please stay with us. We'll be right back with Captain John Hoyte.
The session that we had with BCAT was really entertaining and enlightening. We were able to put together some very specific steps that we as individuals can take, and it was really fun to all come together and see sort of where we're going as a team and how we can all get there together.
We had a tremendous experience with the BCAT partners. One of the challenges that we have as an organization is to make sure that we have the right people in the right chairs doing the right thing. To do that well, you have to have synergy. You can try to dream up ways to make sure that your group does that, or you can rely on experts. We would recommend BCAT partners to anybody who's looking to take their organization to the next level.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back, everyone. We're so happy that you're here. You're watching Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. I have a story to tell, except it's Captain John Hoyte's story. If you're just joining us, in the first segment, we learned that Captain John is a career pilot in the UK. He's taught flying. He's flown all kinds of jets, and he started not feeling well. He started having neurological issues, didn't talk to anyone about it, was doing a lot of night flying, just continued on being the brave, strong man that he is and making sure that people got from point A to point B. And at some point, it became too much. He was losing his memory. He had difficulty speaking. And then he decided to speak up. And he decided to bring this issue about toxic fume poisoning to light. And how were you received, sir, when you started to bring this awareness?
Well, I think it's fair to say there's a bit of a anti-feeling in the airline industry. They don't like us. I mean, I'm not alone, but everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's been trying to get it through to them for many years. Great message, is it, to say that your aircraft are poisoning people? But I mean, Boeing kind of worked it out in 1999 because these scientists, they told them, you've got to change your aircraft's architecture. So Boeing changed it in 1999, and they came up with the Boeing 787. Now, that went back to the original way of putting air into the aircraft, which is with a mechanical air pump. But now they're using electric air pumps. So they got it right in 1999. And that's what I write about in my book, this new book. And Chris Balloway is the French scientist, forensic scientist. He told Boeing in 1999 to do it, and that's why they did it.
And Captain John, would you please raise your arms and show us your jacket?
How's that?
We can see yours. Yes, there we go. Fantastic. Sir, you have a testimonial from your new book. I would love if you would read that for us.
Okay, I'm just bringing it up on the screen, so I can't see you for a bit, but here we go. So this is from a business lady called Robin Montmire, okay? And it's June 4, 2003. And it's to Representative John Micah, Chair of the Aviation Subcommittee, Transportation Infrastructure. Re-exposure to toxic substances on commercial aircraft. Dear Mr. Chairman, I'm not a stewardess, but was a passenger on United Airlines Flight 201, Airbus A320 aircraft, on December 13, 2000. The flight originated from Dulles Airport and was en route to San Diego. The passenger cabin was filled with noxious fumes right after takeoff. All I had at the time was my leather coat and placed this over my face to act as a filter. The pilot came over the speaker after 40 minutes or so and said that he was aware of the odor and was contacting ground control for help in determining its origin. Another hour went by and the pilot came on again and said that he could not determine the cause of the odor and would be landing the plane in Pittsburgh. He turned us around and it took another 40 minutes before he landed in Pittsburgh. What happened next was even more appalling. After nearly 3 hours of being subjected to fumes, the airline did not deboard us in Pittsburgh, but made us wait another 45 minutes on the plane while they tried to fix the problem. Apparently they didn't want to deal with the deboarding and reboarding. I still had my jacket over my face and was extremely tired, dizzy and having difficulty breathing. It was horrible. Finally, someone made the decision that the plane could not fly and we were released from the cabin. I was so sick upon deboarding that I cancelled the rest of my business trip and requested a flight back to my hometown of Rochester, New York. Little did I know that the health in the next year and a half would continue to degrade to more frightening levels. Upon my return home, I spent the next day in sickbed. On December 14, I called up United to inquire as to what chemicals I was exposed. They stated that I needed to write them a letter or email to get the information. I did so on December 15, asking for an explanation of what happened and an MSDS, that's the data sheet, for the chemicals I was exposed to. On December 18, I went to the doctor and I was diagnosed with an extreme respiratory. This is page 2, okay?
Yes.
Right, that's one page. Irritation. In January 2001, I began getting dizzy spells. In February 2001, these turned into involuntary shakes through the head and chest, associated with difficulty breathing and gasps for air. I called United again and finally sent a letter explaining that there had been an oil leak, but no MSDS. Instead, they sent me a voucher for $150 that I never used. I haven't flown since and I never will again. The symptoms have worsened since then. In addition to the difficulty breathing, I know have food intolerances, difficulty concentrating, chronic fatigue, and cognitive dysfunction. I was not able to perform my job. I've since lost, and I still sleep 10 to 12 hours a night, waking up exhausted. I was a top runner before this incident and can barely exercise now. No doctor seems able to help me. I've been to the emergency room several times, thinking I was having a heart attack. I've seen pulmonologists and cardiologists, rheumatologists, and now have seen a neurologist and an occupational health specialist. Finally, 14 months after the incident, on February 28, 2002, United Airlines sent me a MSDS for Exxon 2380 turbo oil and said that there had been an oil leak in a pressure regulator shutoff valve, but that I was exposed to what was similar to smelling engine oil while driving a car. I've tried to get more information from the FAA, but had no luck. United Airlines will no longer talk to me and has told me to contact a lawyer. As I'm sure you're aware, numerous reports and legal proceedings have been occurred over the issue of jet engine oil toxicity in aircraft. Obviously, the government is aware of the cabin air quality issue due to the Senate and House bills that were introduced but not passed in June 2001. Along with a publication by the National Academy Press, the Airline Cabin Environment and the Health of Passengers and Crew, written by a National Research Council Committee on Aircraft Air Quality upon request of Congress. I, along with many scientists and medical professionals, am convinced that the toxic effects of exposure to jet and oil, engine oil fumes and hydraulic fluids are serious issues that need to be addressed. I am one of the many victims that have come forward only to be ignored by the airline industry and the FAA in the United States. In August 2002, I sent a copy of this letter to 25 of your colleagues in the House, and not a single, and to 6 US senators. No one responded. Now I'm asking your committee to help raise awareness and address this problem in the US and to bring justice and aid people like me who have been permanently injured by these exposure incidents. Please help. Sincerely, Robin Montmire. But she's, a business lady, not a gentleman. So there you are.
That is a very sobering letter. That is
I'll send
powerful.
it to you later. That was
Yes,
what I read
please.
in 2006. I said, what don't these people understand about this issue? And of course, it's got a name. It's Aerotoxic syndrome. So, and that's a banned name on the media in the UK, the BBC and so on. They're not allowed to use it. So that's the problem, really. I've had, but it gets out eventually, like all things. and the French were going to accept it as an occupational disease, in March of this year. So that's what the book's all based about. But at the last minute, they changed their mind. So it's kind of, waiting for a date in the future, and then they'll accept it. And then, but it's just a matter of time waiting, isn't it, really?
Thank you so much for sharing that letter. Captain John, what would you like to see happen next?
Well, I'd like some help, actually, because on your own, this is kind of hard work, taking on these powerful people. So I don't know if you've got any people out there who can help, but that's what we want. If anybody can contact me, that would be greatly appreciated. And, it's kind of a common cause, isn't it, for the public good, really?
So when you say you would like some help, can you let our audience know exactly how you want them to help so that people can certainly get involved?
Okay, so I've got my health back. I'm a lucky guy, okay? I don't know. I'm just a healthy man. I've got a Scottish mother and Dutch genes. So, I'm kind of bulletproof. But I'm doing it for the children and for the passengers and those who are not so fortunate as me. And so, yeah, I think, an organization like mine, you can only carry on so long on your own. And then you kind of need somebody else to do it. Because I kind of, I'm not the best at doing this sort of thing. I should be flying airplanes. And that's what I want to go back to. Because I pioneered simulator flying, teaching the people to fly in simulators. And that's what I really want to do in the future, because that's a safe environment. And, Jacalyn, I can teach you to fly on a simulator. How does that sound?
That sounds fantastic, Captain John.
But it's another great business, it's fantastic, to do something you love and in a safe environment. So that's what I really should be doing next, I think.
So before we go on to your next chapter of life, so Aerotoxic Association is a charity. Is that fair to say?
It is. It's called The Charity. It's not a registered charity, but it's called The Charity. But I've pumped quite a lot of money in. I won't tell you how much. You'll faint if I tell you. But it's all money in. And I treat it like an investment because, you invest in stuff, don't you? And I'm pretty sure, I know all the solutions. I'm really boring. If you start me, I can tell you every single solution, and we have regular meetings and we all talk about it. So, it's filter the air, that's the kind of obvious solution. Put detectors in the aircraft. At the moment, you've got the pilot's nose. That's the only thing to test the air. Doesn't sound right, does it?
It doesn't sound right. I'm wondering, Captain John, during this pandemic with people having to wear masks, does a mask help at all with any of this?
Oh, yeah. So this is the mask I started to sell. I was cutting the grass one day in 2008. I thought, well, if the airlines don't filter their air, you can filter yours, So I rang this local company and they said, well, just a cheap mask like this, you put it on and you can filter out the organophosphates and the poisonous chemicals, So that's kind of the thing in the back there. So I sort of spotted it like 13 years ago, But this has been superseded now by clever devices, electrical devices, which filter the air. And again, it's another solution, but the filtered air is very good to have because it takes out COVID-19, the whole lot. So, I really do advocate wearing a mask in an aircraft if there's a fume event. Because imagine, suddenly not being able to see due to white smoke. That's not good for you. I promise you, it's really bad news. It's like 1,000 cigarettes all lighting up at the same time, and we know what, all about tobacco smoke, don't we? So, it's just using your brain really and sort of working things out. So yeah, I think face masks are a good idea in aircraft, definitely.
I think because not only the fumes, which is obviously a huge issue, but if someone else has an illness or a virus, you're protected just by wearing the mask. So I think if and whenever I fly again, I will wear a mask. So, right. Okay. So from our audience, it sounds like you're looking for a few things, and correct me if I'm misspeaking. Donations would be phenomenal.
Yeah, please. That would be cool. Yep.
Donations, people who have connections with lawmakers or others in the airline industry who have the ability to cause change.
I know all the best lawyers in the States. They're in Boston, KJC Law. They're fantastic. We've got their website on our website. So, but attorneys, they're really onto this now.
And then are you interested in having people who are struggling with this type of neurological illness, sickness, that they could all band together, maybe sign a petition?
Absolutely. We've got a petition going, but I'm a pilot. I'm not a doctor. Right. We need to hand over to the doctors and lawyers. Come on, I'm a pilot. I enjoy flying airplanes. And I put an aircraft through a hedge, in 1983, and it got rebuilt. And I want to fly that airplane again, this year. So that's my bucket list, to fly that airplane that I crashed in 83. Because, she's flying again now, so I can go back to flying. And honestly, somebody else should be doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not a responsible person for health and so on. It's other people's jobs, isn't it? Don't you think?
Especially since you've been loyal to this cause for 14 years, you said, and you've taken it to this level, and you need somebody to help take it to the next level.
They'll make a lot of money out of it. I don't do it for money. I think that's the wrong reason. But anybody who does the solutions will be assured that will make a lot of money out of the solutions, because they're no-brainer solutions, and we know them all. We really do.
So we're going to come back to that in a minute. I want to talk about the fact that you recently pioneered public flight simulation. You were just talking about you could teach me how to fly. Talk a little bit more about that, if you would.
Okay. So in 2015, things were getting quite hot in the courts. So I thought I'd ground myself and not fly for a bit. And then one day I was kind of looking at the fog and thinking, hang on, can't fly today. So I thought, well, flight simulators, that's the way to keep flying. So I think it's my dad sending me a message, so I got onto it straight away and started to do it. And the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it. And anybody can be taught to fly, whether you're an 80-year-old or an 18-year-old, 10-year-old, it's open to anybody. But it's a safe environment, and it's a really lovely thing to do, because you just gently show them the controls and then fly around over their house. And then you can change it to a Spitfire, you can change it to a, any aircraft you like, a Mustang, P-51, it's fantastic. And you're in a safe environment. That's the beauty of it. So, and it's fun to do. It really is. You come out laughing, and that's great, isn't it?
It sure is. I've never actually done it before. I'd like to. Is there a simulation?
It's addictive. Okay. Be very careful if you've got an addictive personality.
Do you actually fly in bad weather too in the simulation?
Yeah, but you always make it summer's day. I mean, why fly in bad weather? Every day is summer. No, seriously, in the middle of the winter, you're flying in summer weather. But yeah, you can fly in fog or snow. You can go firefighting. All the flying I've done to date, I've done in the simulator. Isn't that fantastic? You can do anything. You can go into space. It's unbelievable. It's really great, honestly.
Where does someone find an opportunity to do this type of simulation?
Well, I ran this company for like 3 years, but I wasn't really a businessman, so it crashed and burned, And I dedicated my life to Aerotoxic. That's the most important thing in my life, because it's public health. But, I stopped it in 2019, but I'd love to go back to it. But if you Google it, you'll find that, lots of places are doing it. And what I wanted to do was get Aerotoxic pilots who'd been grounded doing this sort of flight simulation for other people, because I thought it would help them, and create a living for them. That was the point of doing it, really. So, and I will do it. It's just a matter of time. You get there eventually, don't you? You just got to have some help. So investment, that's what you need. Somebody putting money in and then getting money out. That's what works, I think.
I think a revenue stream is very nice. Yes, that makes it a little easier to do what it is that needs to be done. Captain John, tell us about A Dark Reflection. You helped produce this film.
Yeah, that was there's this great friend, Tristan Lorraine. He in 2013 he said, look, we're going to make this film which shows the end of this problem, and it's called A Dark Reflection. I think the American version was Flight 313, The Conspiracy. They changed the name, but essentially it looks at the problem. If you've got an Amazon Prime, you get it for nothing. You get it for free on the Amazon Prime, but it's a cracking good film because it just tells you about the issue and how it's finally resolved. And yeah, the Sunday Express, they say, this is how it's going to be resolved. And essentially they've got a choice. They've got they either do it or they don't. And any sensible airline will do it, so that's a great film. And I invested quite heavily. I won't tell you how much because it's quite a lot, but Tristan, he made that film happen, and he's a great guy, and he works for Fact Not Fiction Films, and he's made many documentaries, including one which is coming out soon, American 965, which examines a flight which did have this problem. So, Tristan Lorraine is a really great guy, and Fact Not Fiction Films.
Captain, you cut out a little bit when you were saying where the name of the title that was changed from A Dark Reflection. What was the title?
Flight 313, The Conspiracy. But I think it's back to A Dark Reflection now. But look for either title, A Dark Reflection or Flight 313, The Conspiracy, because they wanted to soup it up a bit for the American market,
Of course, I will definitely look for it this weekend.
Oh, well,
Sir,
please watch it. It's like an hour and a half long. It's a great movie, and I'm in it. All the aircrew are in it. So I'm an airline CEO. That's really funny. You see me sitting on top table, and yeah, honestly, there's a little bit of humor in it.
That's reason enough to watch it if you're in it. That's for sure.
You don't see me much.
So, Captain, I want to touch on the fact that you mentioned you want to get back to flying. So when do you see that happening, and what are the steps you're going to take to make it happen?
Well, I've got my license here. I mean, it's where is it? Find it. So every pilot has a license, okay? But the magical part of the license is the medical. You've got to pass a medical. Well, I passed the medical. I'm fine now, and I got my medical back in 2014. So I needed a few years to get better, but I'm medically fit to fly now. So why not? It's what I do best when I'm up there, and it's great when you leave the ground because all this other stuff you leave behind, and you just do what you know best. And I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing at the moment. I promise you, I should be flying.
So knowing what you know and having already been ill from being poisoned, basically, you know that the solution is not in place, but yet you want to get back into the plane.
But I can write it down on the back of a fag packet. It's not rocket science. If you ask any 10-year-old, what's the solutions for this? They'll say, well, filter the air, change the oil to less toxic oil, put air detectors in the aircraft. I mean, that's not difficult, is it? And you end up talking sort of baby language to explain it to, businessmen. But honestly, it's so simple. And I think most passengers would vote for filters. You heard of that poor Robin Montmire putting a coat over her face. Well, she's trying to filter it out, But obviously, if they put filters on the bleed air, then end of problem, and EasyJet in the UK are doing that at the moment. So to their great credit, any airline that puts filters in will be a winning airline, won't it?
What are the objections that you've heard or received that this isn't happening across the board in the airline industry?
We don't really get rejections. They know what they're facing. They just go silent. They can't even, answer letters now. They're sort of, I think when you ask killer questions, they think, well, we can't answer that question, so we just don't answer it. And that's kind of where it is, really, which is a shame. But there'll be a sudden announcement any day now, because a published paper is due to come out in Science, the journal, by a chap called Dr. David Megson, and he's going to put the final, piece of science in there, really. And Chris Balloway, he died, on the 31st of March, and that was a great sadness. And my book covers his death and why he died, but essentially he died because of lack of money. So here you've got the guy who told Boeing to change their design in the 787 in 1989, dying, in 2021. That's not good, is it?
No, definitely not. Sir, can you tell us about your books? You have 4 books. Obviously, we talked about one that's near and dear to this discussion and is being released today. Can you tell us about the other books?
Yeah, so book number 1, because they don't believe pilots, I got somebody to write it for me, a chap called Philip Whiteley. He's a ghostwriter. And then Susan Curran, she edited it. So that was the first book, called Aerotoxic Syndrome, Aviation's Darkest Secret. And that kind of tied in with the film, A Dark Reflection, because some politician said it's a dark secret, and said, yeah, you bet. So you always use somebody else's words for the book. So that's book number 1. And I'm quite proud of that, really, because it completely nails it. And that was published in 2014. And then the second book was a book I wrote with my friend Peter Lawton, who's another pilot. And he actually taught me to fly. Incredible, isn't it? In 1977. So that went out in 2017. And that's a bit of fun, really, just crop spraying careers, because he did the same as me. So that was kind of, we've got some good stories to tell, and they're all in the book. Yeah. And then last year I wrote this book, How Planes Poison You, Aviation's Dirtiest Cover-Up. Now, these are, again, words of an attorney. They're not my words. I'm just using words from other people. So that was my 3rd book. And do you know what? This last one is the final book. I mean, no more books, really, because it sort of tells the end of the story, how they're going to discover it, could be today, could be tomorrow, doesn't really matter. They're going to discover it. And then people are going to say, but why didn't you tell us? You've known about it all this time. So really the 4th book is the final one. And yeah.
So it certainly sounds like you've documented this entire journey that you've had and put everything out there in other people's words so that there's public awareness, and that the FAA and across the board should be doing something about this for public safety.
If I went into public court, I'd win. I'd just wipe the floor. My case is too good, because I was tested in 1980 for organophosphate poisoning by the Civil Aviation Authority. So my case is too good. That's why they don't touch me, because I'm sort of, got the perfect case, really. It's all documented. And that's how it works in a court. You just provide dated evidence, and then the jury thinks, well, yeah, there you go. So they know I'm absolutely right, and you know what? I just feel sad for everybody else who's experiencing it now. There's a lot of court cases going on around the world, and people are fighting it, but it shouldn't be like this. You shouldn't have to do that, should you? Absolutely not.
And I can tell you that I definitely will be wearing a mask if and whenever I fly again, based on this conversation that we just had. I'm wondering, Captain John Hoyte, if you could give some advice or some tips to people who are interested in becoming a pilot, based on all your experience. What would you say to them?
Well, I think it's still a great thing to do. And I was talking to a lad the other day, and he said, do you know what? I don't want to fly on the airlines. I want to go aerial firefighting. I think, well, good for you, mate. That's what I would do. I would stay away from the airlines at the moment, because it's a pretty grim job. It's quite antisocial, and it's great fun in a way. But it's a fantastic career to follow. It really is. I know so many good friends who are pilots, and there's sort of brotherhood of pilots. We all look out for each other, and and cabin crew too. They're fantastic. Flight attendants, you call them. So yeah, fantastic community. And but just be careful of airline flying, because you can get very sick, within a matter of years. If you got the wrong blood type and the wrong DNA, you're in serious trouble. You really are. And I'm a case, and they can tell who's going to be infected in the future now. They've done so much research. They can kind of predict who's going to be affected, and that's going to be really bad news for this thing, if you think about it, because people will know why they've been affected, and then the attorneys will have an easy job, really, won't they? Because they can just prove anything very easily.
Thank you for giving that advice. 2 things that just occurred to me. One is, aside from the public and aside from the pilots and the cabin crew, what about the military who fly? This pertains to them as well. Too.
There's a famous interview in CBS a few years ago. They had the Raptor cough on the F-22, and these 2 military pilots were speaking out on CBS. They said, hey, we've got a health problem on the F-22. And Captain Josh, somebody I seem to remember, Yeah, and they were speaking out because they were using unfiltered bleed air in the military jets, and that was causing the same problem. So it's a problem in all aircraft, really. And yeah, and it started off in 1921. That's when they started pressurizing, aircraft, and that's why I call the book 1921 to 2020 ? Because we don't know the year when they'll accept it. But it's so the military get it too. The military absolutely get it. C-130, any of the turboprops, they all use bleed air, so it's a common problem.
Does it apply to helicopters?
Not so much, because generally they stay below 10,000 feet. It's only for pressurized aircraft. When you go above 10,000 feet, up to 30, 40,000 feet, that's when you need pressurization. But helicopters are generally low level, below 10,000 feet, and so you don't need this pressurization thing. They do use bleed air, but it's for a different reason. I won't bore you with the details, but helicopters are generally fine. But I'm not clever enough to fly helicopters. You need sort of special coordination for helicopters, So,
I'm sure if you wanted to do it, you certainly could.
I think I could now. Yeah, I feel really good. I feel like I'm 35 again, So yeah, I've never shot at it. I think okay. With an instructor, I'd be okay. Well, try the simulator. That's the smart way to do it, honestly. Yeah, because you can do it for a fraction of the price on a simulator. You really can. So, and it's all weather. You don't care about the weather in the simulator. It can be snowing outside. You just keep going. It's summertime the whole time, really.
Sounds like a wonderful experience.
And a safe one.
How can you do it through Zoom?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How about that? I'll take you on that.
We've got a date.
Okay.
No, I'm not joking.
No, I'm not joking either. I think I'd love that. That would be fun.
Women make great pilots, honestly. They make great pilots because they're very sort of perceptive, and they make really good pilots. Know many female pilots.
Well, I love to try new things and learn, so count me in.
Okay, we've got a deal. You teach me something, I'll teach you something. How's that?
I like it. Value for value.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So I just want to summarize for everyone. Thank you. We have Captain John Hoyte here. If you missed the beginning of the interview or the middle, please go over after the show to YouTube, go to search bar, put in Dr. Jacalyn LLC, and then look for the show. It'll be under the playlist afterwards that is I Have a Story to Tell. So Captain John Hoyte is a career pilot. He's taught other pilots. He's flown a ton of different types of equipment. He's also done aerial crop flying as well as firefighting fly. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Firefighting flying. That's and he suddenly became ill. And then the neurological sickness that he had progressed and got worse and worse, where he had difficult time speaking. His memory was gone. He was doing a lot of nighttime flying. He kept everything inside to himself, didn't tell anyone, assumed that he was feeling the way he was feeling because he was doing all of this nighttime flying. I think you said for 9 years. And at some point, ended up getting tested and was told that he had aerotoxic syndrome. Is that it?
Correct. They call it aerotoxic poisoning now.
Poisoning.
Which is a crazy word, isn't it? I mean, how can you get poison in a jet plane? But you do.
And obviously, this is a public health issue. He's been working on this for 14 years. He calls it the charity. He's invested heavily into this financially as well as emotionally, put a ton of time in. And he's looking for someone to help take this to the next level. The solutions sound relatively easy, but he's not getting buy-in from the people who have the ability to make the decisions for change. So we're looking for people to make donations, looking for people who can sign this petition. Where can they find the petition?
That's on the front page of the website. I've got a really simple website. I've broken 4 websites in the last 14 years due to too much evidence. So I thought I'll simplify it. I don't know. I like simple things. So I just got one page now, and it's a bit of a long page, but it's on the front page.
I see. We have your website right here.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
Yes.
But the petition's on there, and we need to get to 150,000. Once it gets to 150,000, we've cracked it. It's so easy. If a few people sign it, we're away. And it's a friend of mine who runs it.
So I think what we'll do after the show is we will get the link from your website and post it on our pages so that people can sign up. That would be great. So this affects literally anyone and everyone who is traveling by air. So it is a major issue. The other thing, so donations, people to sign the petition, and people who have connections. And it sounds like they need to be connected with these doctors and lawyers in Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah, KJC Law. Yeah, they're brilliant people. John Martin doing a great job. Contacted me in October, and he knows all about it now. So but there are many lawyers all over the States. It's a big thing.
So we'll definitely try to help you with that. So also he's written and published 4 books. The last one is an ebook, and it was released today. And we can go to Amazon. Is there any other place to go?
Do you know what? That's what we've done. I've been working with a lovely girl on it for the last week, and we've managed to get it to Amazon. I'd love to sort of get it out there. If you can help me with that, it'd be fantastic. Yeah.
Absolutely. I will definitely help you with that as well.
Thank you.
Yes. So anything you want to leave our audience with? You've provided so much incredible content, public awareness, public health, public safety. What would you like to have our audience take away from this today?
Just believe pilots. I think, we're pretty credible people, professional pilots. I don't know why they don't believe us. We tell them to our blue in the face with what's going on, and for some reason they don't believe us. And that's kind of pretty annoying, actually, after so long. So that's kind of what I'd like to leave you with. That why would we make it all up? So if you go on the website, you'll see all the evidence, and the challenge today is to find some evidence. And the first person to find some evidence and to send it to me gets a big prize, which I'll keep secret. But it's it's just a challenge to find some evidence, because they say there's no evidence. And you think, well, I think there's evidence. I broke 4 websites, with too much evidence. So there we are.
It sounds like there's an incredible amount of evidence. And that letter that you read was so...
I'll send you that.
Yes.
I'll email
Please
it to you.
Do.
And you need to contact her. And she talked in a film in 2004. And I wish I could find her if she's out there. I think we should find her and say, well, how are you now? Because this is like 20 years ago. So there's a challenge for somebody to find Robin Montmire.
How do you spell it?
Montayeur, Montmire. But you'll see it in the letter when I send it to you.
Perfect. Just for our
she's a
audience.
great girl. I'd love to find out how she is now. And she's probably okay, like me. But she went through hell for like 3 years. And I went through hell for I don't know. So I found out how to deal with it. I went to all the doctors who know how to deal with it. Dr. Sarah Myhill in the UK. She's been dealing with this for like 20 years. So, so certain doctors out there know how to deal with it. And if you go to the right doctor, you're fine.
Well, sir, it has been an honor having you here. I'm definitely going to see how I can help you. I'll be following up with you probably on Monday. We still have several more shows to go. And today's your big day of celebration. So I know you're 5 hours later than over here.
I don't feel very happy. It's the marking it. It's not like a happy day, but thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and your interest. I think
I appreciate
be the big breakthrough for me.
I appreciate your passion and your dedication and your persistence. And I'm glad that you're here today, and we'll definitely have you back.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Phil Chan. He made it happen.
Yes, thank you, Philip Chan. And for people who are on the radio listening, your website is aerotoxic.org. It's aerotoxic.org. Also, if you missed any of this broadcast, please go over to YouTube. In the search engine, put in Dr. Jacalyn, Jacalyn LLC, and you can view this as many times as you want. I will be putting updates on my social media after I get some additional information from Captain John. He's going to send me the letter, and they'll get the link to the petition and put it there as well.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to helping you with this initiative and speaking to you again soon.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Dr. Jacalyn.
Thank you.
You're wonderful. Cheers. Thanks from the UK. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Captain John. Bye-bye. Well, I have to say that topic is so important. My father struggled to breathe. He had bronchiectasis, and he literally was struggling to breathe for a lot of his life, and just watching what he went through and hearing that flying on a plane. I know personally, I've definitely been on flights when I was sitting by the engine and you could smell the fumes coming in. You get a headache automatically. So think about the pilots and the cabin crew that are in this environment on a regular basis, and yet this is their livelihood. This is what they do. They love what they do, but yet they're working in an environment that could literally kill them. And so Captain John Hoyte has taken this initiative for 14 years. It's his baby, and to help other people. So the man knows what he's talking about because he already was diagnosed with being poisoned, and he's here to talk about it and help other people. So let's gather together and see what we can do to help him and help all of us so that we don't have to worry about being poisoned and struggling to breathe, losing our memory, all the things that Captain John described. Thank you again for being here. We've got some other programs coming up. Right after this is A Better You, lessons from the best coaches, consultants, and trusted advisors. And Hyatt Ives is my expert presenter today. After that, we have presenting Pet Psychic Amina, and we're going to be taking your phone calls, and Amina is going to help tell you how to connect with your pets and also what they're saying and thinking. And finally, this show, Stories of Hope, Inspiration, Overcoming Adversity, is a big one. We have a woman whose daughter was the victim of sex trafficking. And this woman founded this organization called Child Proof America. And she's going to talk to us today about what we don't know about sex trafficking. That we might see it on Law and Order SVU, but we don't hear a lot about it in the news. And she can speak firsthand to what's going on and help us protect our children. Thank you so much again for being here. Thank you, Captain John Hoyte. We will look forward to seeing you again shortly.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diane Bain. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diane Floyd Bain tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diane's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diane's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diane's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diane's delightful books and much more at DianeFloydBain.com. Visit DianeFloydBoehm.com. That's DianeFloydBain.com.